What's going on YouTube? Your boy Young Mustard is back with another video, and today we are going to talk about my favorite team, the Chicago Bulls. Because for those who do not know, we have been making moves over the last couple of months. We fired Jim Boylen, way to go. We also picked up Billy Donovan as the replacement. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get Kenny Atkinson, but I'm willing to give Billy a chance, so let's see where this goes. And also the best news of all so far since the season has ended for us, it is that we are getting the 4th overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Now for starters, let me say I am happy that we have broken the 7th pick curse that we have had over the last couple of years, but I am still not that excited about this draft. For one, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really watch a lot of college basketball over the last year, but I do know about Anthony Edwards, Lamelo Ball, and James Wiseman, just simply due to the fact that these are the biggest names of the draft, and honestly, outside of the top 3, the drop-off in talent is incredibly noticeable, I'm just saying. And considering that we don't have a top 3 pick and we're ironically the 4th pick, man, that kinda sucks, but it's cool, it's whatever, because there are still a multitude of options for us at the 4th overall pick. But let's talk about some of the players that could be available around the 4th overall pick that we could use on this team. Well, for starters, let me just burst everybody's bubble that's a Bulls fan. We're not getting Anthony Edwards, Lamelo Ball, or James Wiseman. More than likely, they will be the top 3 overall picks. Even if the Warriors trade their pick or the Timberwolves trade their pick, I can't imagine any of those 3 falling out of the top 3. I'm just saying, because I feel like they're locks for those positions. And for the sake of transparency, let's not get our hopes up. If any of those guys definitely fall out of the top 3, I will be glad to take them, don't get me wrong. But more than likely, it's just not going to happen. So when I look at the rest of the players that are going to be available, there are a multitude of options. You can take Killian Hayes, who's a point guard coming out of France, who from what I can tell is a pretty solid playmaker, and that's a really big issue that we need to address this offseason, as we finished bottom 10, 23rd to be exact when it comes to team assists. So there definitely needs to be some more ball movement and some playmaking on this team. So I would think adding a guy like Killian Hayes, who from what I've seen is pretty good at driving kick situations as well as passing out of the pick and roll, would definitely be beneficial towards the issues with playmaking on this roster. And considering that he's 6'5" with a solid wingspan, he could probably play both guard positions at time when needed to, which could be very valuable on a team that has a lot of flexibility at the guard position with players already such as Kobe White, Chris Dunn, as well as Zach LaVine obviously. So I definitely see a level of versatility that he could bring to us in the backcourt. But despite the praise that I've heaped upon him over the last couple of minutes, the issues that I've heard about him is the fact that he may be a little turnover prone, as his assist to turnover ratio is pretty average for now at least. And also his lateral quickness is a little bit below average, and he can be a little inconsistent on the defensive side of the ball. So essentially you're going to be getting a player with a 6'8" wingspan and also is a combo guard with great size that can become a really good point guard on the NBA level due to his length and size and ability to shoot off the dribble, and has great passing instincts. Those are his calling cards, but it just looks like that's really all he can do, because his efforts defensively and his IQ are still a little bit into question. So I definitely think that if he can improve on those things in the NBA, he could be a solid pick that can be something on the NBA level for us on the Bulls. But moving on to the next player and prospect that we have, that a lot of people have talked to me about that we should get, is Deni Avdija. Now, when it comes to Deni, I'm not going to say his last name that much because a lot of people are probably going to kill me in the comment section for how I pronounce it. But Deni is a all-around wing that has the ability to do a little bit of everything, has a nice feel for the game and a really high basketball IQ. He can create his own shot. He has elite court vision. He can see angles that very few players his size can. He's a pretty creative passer and can play the pick and roll very good as the ball handler. And since he can either shoot, drive, or pass to the rolling big, he can see the weak side while driving to the basket. He's pretty good in drive and kick situations and has a pretty solid basic post-up game, which helps him score against smaller opponents either with brute force or with nice footwork, and he can turn from either shoulder when he's posting up. And even though he's not the athlete that a lot of other players are, he has pretty good lateral quickness combined with good instincts to help him stay in front of perimeter defenders, and he can also play in front of passing lanes with active hands to help him get steals, and he's a pretty terrific shot blocker for his position. But regardless of his efforts defensively, I don't really project him to be some elite defender in the NBA, so I think his main contributions will be what he does offensively, because just like any other prospect, there are still a few negatives about Deni. For starters, as a shooter, he's a little bit streaky because he's a good three-point shooter when he's on. He has a nice little step back, but the problem is that's just when he's on, because I didn't really want to compare him to Luka at all because I don't want to put those kind of expectations on a guy like that. But it kind of reminds me of Luka. Luka's a great three-point shooter when he's on, but he's a very streaky one, so when he's off, and that's just how Deni is as a shooter as well. And he also struggles to be able to create against more athletic players, so that might be a sign that on the NBA level, especially considering he doesn't really have that big of a frame, so he's not going to be able to power through them. His handle is not like Kyrie or anything, so he's going to have to learn how to be able to play against more athletic players, and it might be a little bit of a struggle for him in that aspect, as well as the turnovers. There are times I've watched him and he's turned the ball over a little bit too much in certain games, so I definitely think that's something that he needs to perfect a little bit more on the NBA level. And then in regards to his defense, like I said earlier, I'm not expecting him to be elite, and there are some positives on the defensive end for him, but the negatives are that he does have problems reading screens on the defensive side, especially in pick and roll situations, and he also is a step too slow sometimes when it comes to guarding good athletes on the perimeter, which could definitely be a problem with him playing in the front court. So yeah, there are negatives to Deni, but before I get into who the Bulls should take with the 4th overall pick, let me just address some other candidates such as Obi Toppin. I've heard a lot of people say we should consider getting him. He's a power forward coming out of Dayton, 6'9", is a pretty raw athlete, which leads me to think that he would be pretty effective in the pick and roll and even in some pick and pop situations, as he is a pretty good three-point shooter. But considering the fact that he isn't really that promising on the defensive side of the ball, as that looks like it could be one of his biggest weaknesses in his career, as well as the fact that offensively he's not much of a shot creator or anything. So yeah, I really think he's just gonna be like another John Collins. No disrespect, but that's kind of what it looks like. So don't kill me in the comment section though, because I am terrible when it comes to my draft predictions, but I can be a little bit on target sometimes, but please don't kill me in the comment section. I just compared Obi Toppin to John Collins because that's just kind of what I see. He's not that great of a shot creator. He's not going to be handling the ball that much, and even as a shooter, it's not like he's going to be coming off of the dribble. He's going to be doing some catch and shoots and some pick and pops. So regardless though, really nice athlete. I just don't think we need him on the team, especially to be taking him with the 4th overall pick. He's just not that good. But now that I have addressed all the players that we could get with the pick, let's talk about what we should do with the actual pick itself. Now, I titled this video, "What should the Bulls do with the 4th overall pick?" because there are still a multitude of options outside of even drafting a player. I am still on this bandwagon that we should trade for Chris Paul, because when I looked at the potential of our roster coming into this season, I honestly thought we had a shot at the 8th seed in the playoffs. Now, I know a lot of people are going to laugh at me, but when you look at the roster up and down, we definitely have some players that can contribute to some playoff success. The only issue is we're just 1 or 2 pieces away, and I think that Chris Paul could be that missing piece, especially in a weak Eastern Conference. If he can do what he did with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West, just imagine what he could do with the Bulls in the East, with players like Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, who can space the floor, who I still have not given up on, that I think has all-star potential, and also Chris Dunn, who is a terror on the defensive side of the ball. I definitely think he has potential to be one of the best defenders over the next decade. That's just my personal opinion, but you heard it first from Young Mustard. And I think that Chris Paul as a whole can bring a whole different culture change to the organization. And honestly, I just want to see us win. For real, this draft looks ass. Really, it looks ass. Next year, the draft is going to be so much better. So really, who cares if we give up this pick? Honestly, who cares if we give up the 4th overall pick this year? Unless Deni becomes Luka, which hell, if it happens, I will come up and apologize to all my Bulls fans that I even suggested this. But I think trading for Chris Paul is the way to go. He helps us as a playmaker because we desperately need that. Defensively, he's better than Kobe White was and Thomas Satoransky was for us last year. And considering that we already have Chris Dunn, I can only imagine some lineups where we have Chris Dunn at the 2 and Chris Paul at the 1, or hell, even if you want to throw Chris Dunn at the 3 because he does have the ability to guard some small forwards. I definitely can see some nice lineups that they could throw at teams with Chris Paul, Zach LaVine, and Chris Dunn on the court at the same time. And honestly, I'm here for it because I think Chris Paul can be that element and that one piece that can push us to the next level of playoff teams in the Eastern Conference, which is what I think people should remember. Because if Chris Paul can do what he did in OKC in the West and make them a 5th seed when they weren't even predicted to make the playoffs at the beginning of the season, then I definitely don't think it's too much of a stretch to ask that the Bulls can make the 8th or 7th seed in the Eastern Conference if you put Chris Paul on that roster. And as far as the pieces go, I would suggest Otto Porter and Thaddeus Young along with the 4th overall pick, and hell, maybe even throw in our 2nd round overall pick for this year. And I think you have a solid trade right there that's beneficial for both sides. OKC gets another draft pick and a top 5 pick in this year's draft, a 2nd round pick later on in the draft, as well as getting players like Otto Porter, who's going to be on an expiring contract because more than likely he's going to opt in, and Thaddeus Young, who's a solid defender, but let's be real, he's just contract filler. But a lot of people did hate the trade when I suggested it in my Chris Paul video, so if it doesn't work out, then drafting Deni or Killian Hayes, if that's the way to go, I can't hate on it. But like I said earlier, I preferably would trade that pick for CP3 and just wait till next year, because even if we're somehow ass with CP3, next year's draft looks way loaded. And hell, Chris Paul, he's been rumored to team up with Giannis next year, and I think that could happen, but it may not happen in Milwaukee, if you know what I'm saying. But let me not get too ahead of myself. That concludes this video. If you like it, make sure you drop a like down below. Comment your opinions. What do you think the Bulls should do with the 4th overall pick? If you liked my suggestions, let me know down below. If you didn't, let me know some counter suggestions that you think the Bulls should do with that pick in the comment section. If you love what you see from the channel, hit that subscribe button and push that bell for post notifications. Make sure you check me out on social media. All of the links are down below in the description box. Y'all have a great day and stay safe. This is your boy Mustard signing out. Peace.